Who is an identity provider? Identity provider is somebody who's storing your user accounts, their attributes, their groups, and other memberships as well. In the Microsoft world, you're storing your identities in three places. One is your on-premises Active Directory, of course, then the Azure Active Directory where the users are synced to, then the Active Directory domain services. The Azure Active Directory is a cloud-based identity as a service, and this is providing a broad range of capabilities for managing and protecting your environment. Then there is Active Directory domain services. This is also in the cloud, but this is an intranet identity provider. This is typically used by organizations that have existing on-premises identity provider like Active Directory. Now, regardless of where the identities are stored, on-premises, Azure Active Directory, or Active Directory domain services, we need to take care of identity lifecycle. That means all the processes that the user goes through right from onboarding all the way to end of the life cycle of that identity. For example, when the user or that identity leaves the organization, or it could be possibly moving to another department as well. That means that we need to have a lot of planning required for the identity governance infrastructure in the cloud as well as in the hybrid environment. Let's talk about the various steps here. So the step number one is to plan for the users and groups. That means you will identify the users, their groups and the group memberships for those Azure Active Directory accounts. Then what kind of permissions will they have? So you need to secure the privileged identities. Plan how to secure your global administrator account and also determine which users will have the global admin role and also which ones will have dedicated global admin accounts. If you got a hybrid infrastructure, you need to configure hybrid identities. So for hybrid environments, you need to determine which on-premises identities in Active Directory services do you want to sync to Azure Active Directory tenant. How will the synchronization happen? Well, this needs to be planned as well. Then you need to configure the secure user authentication. And this is specifically done with the help of multi-factor authentication, and that is a second level of security for user sign-ins, right? Because you will determine how you will configure the second authentication method on a per user account basis. It's important to simplify user access, so you'll plan for self-service password reset. And this particular feature in Azure Active Directory permits the users to reset or unlock their passwords without help desk intervention. For hybrid environments, plan to implement password write-back. Now, password write-back is a feature of Azure Active Directory Connect tool that will allow users to update their passwords through Azure Active Directory SSPR even when their accounts and attributes are stored on premises. So the passwords or the credentials are written back to on premises when they are reset. And finally, you will use groups for easier management. So you will identify Azure Active Directory groups that group owners can manage on their own, and also use the concept of self-service group management, and this will enable group leaders who understand the business use for the group to have day-to-day control of that membership. What we're talking about is identity governance, identity lifecycle at a very high level. As we drill down to this course, we'll talk about very minute details like identity synchronization, role-based access controls, granting permissions, and also various strategies and principles revolving around the security of identities. All right, let's go talk about the zero trust model in the next section.